what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
The destinations for barbecue are as diverse as the meat menus that span this land of low and slow. From cinder block shacks and smoke stacks that are generational landmarks to the sparkling new Taj Mahals of big city high-end barbecue, there's a place for every taste and every occasion. Less than an hour northwest of downtown Charlotte, near the shores of Lake Norman, a new destination has a full selection of activities to go along with a barbecue menu based on the pasture-to-plate business concept that fills the sprawling property. In this episode of the Low and Slow Barbecue Show, we find out about the Bohemian Cattle Company, a family-owned farm and gathering place in Sherrills Ford. We talk to the executive chef and head pitmaster Colby Brownlee and find out about this diverse barbecue experience. Bohemian's brand manager Bradley Bonning gives us all the details about the property. It includes hiking and biking trails, a disc golf course, and maybe even a Sasquatch too. Of course, we get details on a couple of recipes from the Pitmaster, one for sauce, one for a rub. Be sure to get all the recipe specifics over at the Low and Slow blog. It's at lowandslowbbqshow.com. That's lowslowbbqshow.com. While you're there, you can find blogs, recipes, and other podcast episodes with pitmasters and food folks from all across the Carolinas. Be sure to listen to our episode with Matt Berry from Midwood Smokehouse. You'll hear all about his barbecue burn-ins with cola sauce. And don't forget to find pictures and reels from our barbecue adventures at our Instagram page, Low and Slow Barbecue Show. You'll want to follow Bohemian Cattle Company on Instagram too, so you can get a good look at all the stuff you're going to find out about during our conversation. A conversation that's coming to you right now. Colby, Bradley, welcome to the Low and Slow Barbecue Show. We're so excited to have you guys from what sounds like a really cool project, the Bohemian Cattle Company.
Absolutely. Sure. Thanks for having us.
Good to be here.
Yeah, wonderful. Hey, I want to jump right into it. Colby, Bradley, you chime in, whoever's appropriate. I want to find out first about this exciting project, the Bohemian Cattle Company. What is it and what's it all about now?
Well, the Bohemian Cattle Company is kind of like an agritourism event center. We're on 70 acres here. We have everything from gold panning to hiking to our restaurant, and we have an ice creamery and just a fun family environment that we're trying to create here in the local community.
Wow, fantastic. And Bradley, you're the marketing and events person, kind of managing the brand there for Bohemian Cattle Company. When did this business open? And I guess what's the response been like so far?
Yeah, well, it's been incredible from the local community. We opened on August 2nd, and we had just an onslaught of people come in. I mean, it was honestly overwhelming at times, but obviously it was also very exciting for us because we've all been working very hard on this vision to kind of bring all this to light. We worked for several months leading up to that. So once we got open and we saw all the kind of fanfare and reaction from the local community, I mean, it made it all worth it for us.
Yeah, fantastic. And the business is located in the Sherrills Ford community. That's in the southeast part of Catawba County, just about 50 miles sort of northwest from the Charlotte region. So, definitely I'm sure it gets a great draw from Hickory and Statesville, Mooresville, Sherrills Ford, obviously down in Charlotte as well. We're a barbecue podcast and excited to have a new business there in sort of in our North Carolina community, but we want to get right on into the barbecue now that we've found about the business. Tell me, how does the barbecue and the restaurant fit into the Bohemian Cattle Company? And then we'll really start pressing Colby for all the details.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, we really wanted to create an environment where we could grow our own cattle and do our own thing like an authentic farm, and then bring that in-house so we could really give some authentic barbecue and like homegrown, if you will, meats and foods to the local community. And like I said, just kind of bring everyone in, not only to have a nice meal, but just to create memories and experience. We're very much about, we don't want you to come here and eat. We want you to come here and eat and love it and then hang out for a few hours, just like a big family reunion, if you will.
Yeah, fantastic. It's a full day event, not just to come in for lunch or dinner, although I'm sure you can do that too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, tell me about what's an experience like. What is the ideal experience for somebody that's just walking in the front door or the front gates of the property?
Yeah, I mean, the experience really starts right when you come over. We have a huge arch that you kind of come through when you go down, and right immediately you're kind of morphed into this farm atmosphere, and you can see our donkeys and the cows as you pull in. And then once you get here, there's tons to do. We have catch and release pond that we fully stocked with different types of fish. We have gold panning. We have two streams on the property, and there is real gold in there, and the kids love that. We have soccer fields and activity fields, and a large piece of this is going to be corporate events and team building. We're going to have a couple days for that, but very much hiking and just all around, family farm environment.
Yeah, well, so a lot of stuff already in action out there, and I'm looking at the website BohemianCattleCo.com. A beautiful site and a really cool map there that shows all the stuff you've got going on, and a lot of the things that you've already mentioned here. That's BohemianCattleCo.com. Bradley, tell me before I get back to Colby, and I promise I'm getting to Colby for sure. But tell me what's in store for the future of Bohemian Cattle Company. I know you got a ton of stuff already, but is there something that's yet to be born?
Yeah, so we just got our 18-hole frisbee golf course set up. So we're on the app UDisc, which is a huge thing for the frisbee golf community. We're wanting to extend this to scavenger hunt, escape camps, which is kind of a play on escape room. And we want to have a camping grounds here, not tent camping, so they can do biking and our hiking trails. So that's really next year what we're going to focus on is really upscaling some of our land, our property that we have. Again, we're on 70 acres, so we have some room to do some fun stuff and kind of expand those activities.
Yeah, wow, that's fantastic. Really exciting stuff. Well, I want to focus in now kind of on the barbecue and talk with our man Colby Brownlee, and I know he's a pit master, and I already got a little glimpse into his background. It sounds really interesting. So Colby, let's turn the microphone to you and tell me about who you are, where you're from, and how did you get into smoking low and slow at the Bohemian Cattle Co.
Absolutely. Barbecue has kind of been something that's been in my life since a very young age. I grew up going up fishing up in Alaska, and after we fished both tides and the old guys were tired, I kind of would hop in and stoke the flames and get the salmon smoke and things like that. So that was at 11 years old, and it just kind of carried on as a hobby for me. And then through a series of events, I worked in different things, but in my 20s, I kind of got an opportunity to run pop-ups for barbecue, kind of almost kind of like the underground barbecue scene out in California.
Yeah.
I had a friend that owned Grill Fellas Barbecue out in Los Angeles, and gave me an opportunity to do pop-ups while I was a craft brewer, and it really kind of took off. And I was doing that down in San Diego, and we just really grew that, and I ended up becoming kind of a franchise owner for that, and focused on barbecue, and then opening up my own barbecue business on the West Coast, and did that up until I moved to Texas. And so I took a lot of influences. His major thing, he was amazing at brisket, but really good at tri-tip, and we're really well known for his tri-tip. So tri-tip is kind of one of my mainstays, and you'll see it appear on our menu out here. I feel like I'm kind of having to introduce it to a degree. It's a newer cut for some people. So it comes up on the menu every now and again. But at that point, I moved out to Texas and did barbecue out there for a while. Out in Austin, worked for Valentina's Tex-Mex, worked for Pokey Joe's Barbecue, helped open kind of a conceptual barbecue place out there in Austin. And then got brought out here by Midwood Smokehouse. And I was kind of working with Matt Berry out there. Man, they're amazing people. Got my intro to kind of the Carolina style barbecue. Yeah. And working with them, I was the kind of role of corporate pit trainer. So I rotated through the stores, helped to keep guys consistent. And working with those JNR Oiler rigs was an experience. Those are amazing smokers.
Yeah, definitely. We've had Matt on the podcast. Right. Definitely enjoyed his food, and the Oiler smoker is something that comes to be a running thing through a lot of North Carolina barbecue restaurants. It sounds like you've really got a varied background that kind of contributes to a lot of cool things. Now that you've gotten here to North Carolina and gotten a little Carolina, you got the West Coast. You talk about the tri-tip, and I'm sure they know a little bit about barbecue down in Texas. What do you feel like at the Bohemian Cattle Company? What is your specialty now?
Well, with us being kind of what I like to call pasture to plate, we do slaughter our own cattle. We raise our own cattle here. Yeah. So we are a little more beef centric.
Sure.
we do have all your major proteins, but beef is definitely one of our big ones. And we have a big 1,150 gallon offset Texas style, Franklin style smoker that we use. So a lot of our meat that we process, we smoke in that. And then we also have 2 Santa Maria style grills. So that's kind of a throwback to my my roots back in San Diego and doing tri-tips. So we do steaks, all wood fired on that grill. Everything from ribeye to New York strips to Denver cuts. That's been
Nice.
actually kind of growing popular one.
Yeah.
We do tri-tip. Sure, we've done a whole bunch of other things. We also have seafood, so we're smoking seafood. We made a smoked salmon dip that was just kind of out of this world. So we're very diverse, and it's kind of, in a sense, for me, the culmination of my barbecue experiences and where I really get to bring everything together into a unique opportunity that allows me to kind of show and encompass my creative side for barbecue.
Yeah.
And it's been a blast. It's been a blast.
Yeah, right on. Well, so I got to ask you, here in North Carolina, and maybe that line's getting a little blurry now, but do you guys fit in the Eastern barbecue, or are you the Western barbecue?
So we do pork shoulder.
Okay, well, okay.
And
So there's
I
Western.
would I want to do whole hog at some point. We're definitely going to do some whole hog events.
Yeah.
I love cooking whole hog. I've done it before and can't wait to do it here. And that's where I'll definitely kind of venture into the Eastern Carolina side.
Sure.
Right now, more on the kind of the Western. Our sauce is kind of it's a little bit of a mixture of elements, but it's Carolina at its core, and it has a few little twists that are kind of my own little flavor tweaks.
Yeah, right on. And you've shared a couple of those recipes, and I want to get into that next. But before we shift over to that, I want to ask Bradley or maybe you, Colby. You guys are producing the beef there on site. You said it's pasture to plate. You're using it there on the property. Are you selling it out to other locations as well? Are you butchering it and offering it and making it into the market, or is this strictly for you guys as use there?
Everything's in house at this point. It's a small kind of herd of cattle.
Cool.
And we're actually struggling to keep up on ribeyes and some of the major cuts just because those are by far the most popular.
Mm-hmm.
But we process all through Apple Brandy Slaughterhouse. And for things like brisket, and where, every cow only has 2 briskets. So I'd be short on brisket a lot. And
Right.
Brisket is by far kind of our most popular meat. I found in Charlotte, brisket is really becoming kind of a very popular kind of meat. Pork wise, we do a Duroc crossbreed. I do for the pork shoulder and for a St. Louis style rib that we smoke as well. And we have 2 different versions on our rib. One's our smoked rib, very traditional. And then we have our back porch rib, which is smoked and then finished on our Santa Maria grill. Get some char marks. We have a compound butter that we melt on that, and it just kind of spices up the flavors of that.
Yeah, cool. So let's talk about that sauce you mentioned. I think in the ones you shared with me, here's a sweet apple zest vinegar sauce. Why did you share this one with us, and how did it come about?
It was, I tried a lot of the different vinegar sauces, everything from Midwoods to some of the Eastern styles, and I find them amazing. They cut through the pork in just a way that was unique to me, especially being from Texas and doing Texas barbecue, where sauce is on the side, but then with like your pork. I always felt pork was lacking a little, to be honest. And don't tell my Texas friends that, but it's like pork is king out here, and the vinegar-based sauces were kind of what, to me, took it to the next level, cut through it. I wanted more apple flavor. And that's where one day I was like, well, let's add in some applesauce into that and just kind of see what that tastes like. So I was just playing around. And so it has a lot of your kind of traditional things for the apple cider vinegar, your brown sugar. And then I do like using we use our barbecue sauce instead of ketchup in it. And then the ginger powder. And ginger, just it's kind of an accoutrement to the applesauce, and it adds just a unique kind of twinge in there. And it's not very prominent. It's not up front. It's not overpowering. Not in your face. But it's just it's. I looked at the traditions and was like, well, how do I make it my own? And so I wanted to pay some respect to that, to the traditions there. And I do some things that are unique, like I use coffee in a lot of my rubs and things like that as well. And that comes from my early days back in college, working in a coffee shop and just kind of falling in love with coffee. And it's stuck with me ever since. So I'm just taking those little touches and kind of making things my own version.
Yeah, and definitely looking over the recipe, which we'll have it at the Low and Slow Barbecue Show website, lowslowbbqshow.com. We've got all the recipes and our blogs there. Kind of looking back over the recipe, a lot of cool different things. Obviously take an adventurous step into what we know as Carolina traditions, I guess.
Right.
When people are making up the recipe, is there anything in particular they ought to watch out for? They should try to follow, and then when's the best time to use this sweet apple zest vinegar sauce?
I mix it in with pork. I even like tossing like chicken wings in it. Yeah, I think it's amazing on chicken. But with like pork, you're mixing, like when you mix all the ingredients, the one that can potentially clump on you, and like you want to mix it in slow, is that ginger powder. Otherwise, you get clumps in it. Just making sure it's fully immersed, like kind of blended up inside. And then I always heat it before I add it into my pork. I like it at the same temp. That way, you're not cooling your pork off, and then, man, it's ready to go.
Yeah, cool. So again, that recipe will be on at the blog, but you've shared another one with us, and I love it already. Sasquatch Ancho-Chile coffee rub. Tell me all about that. And Sasquatch, how did he get involved, or she?
So that might be a question from Brad.
Well, so here on our farm here, we have a Sasquatch experience.
Oh.
So we found two Sasquatches that live amongst us here on the farm that you can go find while you're here. So we have a few. They're brothers. They hang out and may or may not be in some of our shirts. So we have them out mingling amongst the woods. So we're kind of basing all that branding off the same thing.
Fantastic. So definitely there's a good reason to have it. And he's on the map here on BohemianCattleCo.com. So if you look for him over here by the campground, you might find him apparently. So
yeah,
tell me about the rub. You mentioned the coffee. It's something that dates back to your coffee shop days. How does it work out combining with the chili, and what do you use it on?
So like the coffee flavors to me, way back in the day, always like when I was cooking at home, I was putting ground coffee into all of my rubs, and it adds a layer of roastiness and depth to things that, as much as I love and respect just salt and pepper type rubs, it was like, well, hey, that's an additional flavor that I'm getting out of it that really kind of builds on that crust and bark for longer smokes. It works great. So we use it on our brisket. We use it on our pork as well. And it's a little divergence from kind of your traditional, but it has that Ancho-Chile. You get kind of the smoky little spice, kind of the flavors in that. We use the coriander, and that kind of, it brings a lot of those flavors together. Of course, your garlic, your onion. So it is a little bit more of a complicated rub, but there are elements that, to me, kind of, they're not over smoked by the types of woods we're using, and they blend a layer of flavor to it that I enjoy.
Yeah, right on. So again, that's going to be on our website, lowandslowbbqshow.com, along with some more details about the Bohemian Cattle Company. And Bradley, tell me, when is the business open? When can people come to Cheryl's Ford and have an experience out there?
Right. Yeah. We're like I said, we opened August 2nd. So Mondays and Tuesdays we kind of keep reserved for like our corporate events. Like I said, we do some team development activities and different type commercial events. But Wednesdays, we're open from 11 to 9. Wednesday, Thursdays, Friday, Saturdays, which we always have live music as well. Those days we're open to from 11 to 10, and we're actually open for Sunday and Sunday lunch from 11 to 6.
Wow, fantastic. So lots of great opportunities to come out and experience everything going on out there. So I'll turn back to Colby here, and as we take it kind of into barbecue 101, and obviously, Colby, a seasoned veteran of a lot of cooking, not just in the low and slow realm and the Pitmaster, but all the way back to Alaska, right? Poking the fire there. What is one tip or one of a kind practice, a simple thing that every backyard and barbecuing guy should try to do? And don't tell me to get a thermometer or, something simple like that, or take it easy, be patient. We've heard that. This is, the 23rd episode or whatever. Let's have a really good tip.
One of the things that I was doing back, just kind of as a home barbecue back in the day, and I don't know if this came from like craft brewing experience, but I took notes. I like taking notes on things like the ambient temperature, or if it's raining, things like that. It showed me kind of consistency things. And then for me, I went for years without using like a thermopin or like a thermometer, and getting the touch, the feel kind of where my meat was at, learning that, and just knowing the more you do it, the better you get at it. You get that consistency down, and you really learn kind of the feel of the meat, the texture, the touch, all of that. And your fire maintenance, like fire maintenance 101, learn how to tend your fire, keep it rolling, keep your temps at the temp you want. For me in backyard barbecuing, that was number one.
I'll chime in. So I'm a terrible cook, so I've been learning a lot here from Chef. And one of the things he taught me, I call it the poke method, where you poking. He does this poke method where you can kind of tell where it was at, and I didn't know anything about that. So my wife came out the other day, and I was just poking all kind of stuff. She didn't know what was going on, but I felt like I was doing something right. So
don't worry, honey. I'm over here poking my meat. Nothing to worry about. It's
right.
The more I poke it, the longer it cooks, the firmer it gets. We don't want it too firm. Yeah. We want it just right. Probe, touch, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So now I want to take us kind of into barbecue secret time and find out, a little bit about what makes you tick as a barbecue person and why you do these kinds of things. So, tell me, Colby, what do you enjoy most about what you're doing?
For me, especially with this location, and like I've had the creative outlets in the past, and being able to cook things beyond just your brisket, your pork shoulder, your ribs, and your chicken. With us having our own kind of farm and ranch and cattle here, I'm getting to play with a lot of other cuts of meat, and you'll see those kind of on our specials. And we're doing different cuts of meat than you might find at your normal place, just because the cows come from our pasture, and when we get them processed, I find out a way to use them. And definitely most of our stuff is slow, but we do have that Santa Maria grill, so I'm able to quickly grill over fresh wood. That's something that's really kind of fun.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, so what do you feel like has been your most important moment in cooking in low and slow?
The first brisket I ever messed up. I remember the first time I cooked a brisket, and I turned it into a brick. And that taught me a lot by kind of making that failure and being like, wow, what did I do wrong? Like it was one of the hardest little bricks that looked like almost coal. And I think a lot of people pull things too early is one of the common things that I see, and especially with having worked with a lot of other pit guys and training pit crews and all of that, that tendency to want to pull it early. And on the other side of that, kind of the pendulum swings, and you have your brisket you're letting it ride out too long, and to 215 degrees internal, I've seen it, 220 degrees internal, I've seen it, and it starts getting a little dry at that temp. So finding that kind of that mid range, for me, like my mistakes taught me how to better that.
Yeah, and so you mentioned early on in our conversation here, you ran your own food business. Definitely an entrepreneur in a lot of different ways as a barbecue business person. What do you feel like it takes to be successful in the barbecue business?
Patience. Not
just at the pit, not just at the smoker,
not just at the pit, but waiting for the right opportunities. And it's like, well, each and every opportunity in my life has led me to another. And within a business, I remember when I started mine up, and business was slow a little bit to start off. And then kind of as word gets out, you start to build. And word of mouth is one of the strongest things within a business. and it went from starting slow to really kind of taking off on just it skyrocketed back in especially like San Diego, like the amount of catering requests and like people are looking for good barbecue. And um, not to knock the West Coast, but I think Texas and North Carolina, Carolinas in general have barbecue down pat. Like there's a lot of great places for barbecue. Back in San Diego at the time I was in that there weren't as many. Now you're seeing kind of a resurgence and an uplifting of that community. So it's awesome to see that and see the growth in that community where there weren't as many and they were more commercial driven at that point in time. Now to see an actual good craft barbecue guys.
Yeah, and you mentioned, so that's a curious question there. I was in San Diego last summer and went to a place, actually, I guess it was in Fresno, and got what they labeled as their Southern barbecue, and it was pulled pork. But it kind of occurred to me while I was out there, on the West Coast, is there a different barbecue than what we would have in the South? And it kind of makes me think more of the Korean barbecue, the Pacific Island, a different flavor, a different treatment, it's still low and slow, but it's, not what here in Carolina would call barbecue or what Texas would call barbecue. But in the same way, it's still barbecue, right?
It to a degree. I can think of a lot of places, and I don't like talking bad on places, but there are places that have become commercialized and they shift away. Now they may be still cooking low and slow, but they're not using a smoker anymore. They're not using wood. They're not using charcoal. They're not using those elements, and they're cooking things in ovens rather than smoking them.
Right.
To me, that you lose that element. You lose that kind of that true traditional flavor of barbecue. Now, what California does well as far as barbecue is the Santa Maria style, like Santa Maria tri-tip, and kind of that throwback to the Argentinian, like the asada. There are a lot of good places, and that's one of the things. Like I think since Franklin came on the scene out in Austin, Texas, you've seen that Texas resurgence in barbecue, and that's happening definitely on the West Coast. That everybody's asking for the Texas style barbecue, and whereas before it was more the KC Kansas City style barbecue that was driving the scene out on the West Coast. Now you're getting a lot more kind of a broader spectrum of barbecue as a whole.
Yeah, the rainbow of barbecue flavors on the West Coast.
That's kind of what it
is. Great. Well, so tell me, what do you feel like is the best thing that you've ever made? I know, gosh, that's probably hard to pick out of all the things, but what is your top A1 experience for delivering on a meal that you can recall?
Yeah, I would have to say I did some. Speaking of asada, it was picanha, like the Argentina's cut. Similar to tri-tip in many ways, but I smoked it first in a offset smoker, and then I finished it directly over coals. And I threw a little rack kind of into the firebox and finished it off on top of the coals, and it just came out perfect. The seasoning, the smoke, the char, and that was for a family. Our family got together, a couple families, and we ate that, and it was one of the most kind of divine experiences eating meat that I've ever had. And it was like, wow, that hit the spot.
Yeah. So what did you have with it? What are the sides?
Everybody always requests my coleslaw. I always call it's a creamy jalapeno lime coleslaw. So it has cilantro, green onion, jalapeno. And so it's a mayonnaise base, but with a lot of like apple cider vinegar. So it has that tang. It has the sweet from like honey or sugar. And then it has a little bit of spice and the flavors of all of those other things. And it goes well with pork. It goes well with beef. It goes well with chicken. So that any time we have a family get together, like my family's on the opposite side of the country from me. So we get together. That's one of the sides they're always asking me for.
Yeah, cool. That sounds great. I'd love to get some of that myself. So
absolutely.
Where do you turn to when you're looking for barbecue advice?
I had a lot of guys that even after I moved here, working with the JNR oiler rigs, I was calling because I knew they were using them out in Texas at a few places, and I was much more used to like an offset style, and so just learning kind of the tips and tricks and troubleshooting things when you're having a problem with them, and because they cook amazingly when they're running right. So that's I'm definitely calling out to them.
Yeah.
dealing with different types of smokers. And I have some. I have a friend back in Los Angeles that was my mentor when I first got into the barbecue world, who I still talk to, and we shoot ideas off each other, and like we're always coming up with things. So that's fun for me.
Yeah, that's cool. So, how long have you been around North Carolina now? You said you were with Midwood for a while, and we're doing some training
I
work.
got
So a little while.
here back in November of last year, so I'm relatively new.
Okay.
Relatively new.
Well, surely that's long enough time to figure out your favorite North Carolina barbecue restaurant. You can't say Bohemian Cattle Company, Broadley. I know how marketing people are. I'm a marketing people, but we want an honest answer here.
I think John G's is doing amazing stuff, and
Oh yeah,
I love that Texas inspiration in his stuff. Noble Smoke, I think, is also really for the size they are doing some phenomenal things and using the Texas style offset. Really like to see what they're doing. Midwood Smokehouse, of course. I love their collard greens, and I miss those. I do mine a little different, but so I miss theirs for sure.
Cool. Okay, so in Texas, where's your best Texas barbecue restaurant?
That'd be Miguel Vidal out at Valentina's Tex-Mex Barbecue. He is a genius when it comes to that, and doing long smokes on brisket, pork, all of that with mesquite. It still shocks me he's able to pull it off, because he's one of the few guys doing long overnight smokes with mesquite. To this day, I know he's just got his new spot out in Buda. Shout out to him for sure, because he's killing that game out there. That Tex-Mex style fusion.
Yeah.
And growing up in San Diego, growing up with like the Mexican influences close to Tijuana. For me, like I love a good taco.
Sure.
We have some tacos on our menu, and give me a good old slice of brisket, and I'll throw that on a tortilla any day, and add a little salsa, beans, whatever. And that to me tastes like home. Yeah,
and you're seeing more of that kind of thing in the Carolinas as well. Like you mentioned, John J's, he's definitely got a Texas flavor. More of that coming well. The burrito tacos are definitely good. Black Powder Smokehouse was serving some of that at an event where you're at. Definitely, you see more and more of that, and that's cool. That again, North Carolina is also kind of becoming a little bit of a rainbow of barbecue flavors, right? And you definitely Bohemian Cattle Company going to try to stake a claim there.
Yeah, especially with being kind of a cattle ranch, like beef is, in a sense, our focus.
Yeah.
And I honestly thought we were going to sell more pork, and I tried to get a very good, high-quality pork, because we don't raise our own pork yet. Now, I won't count that out.
Yeah.
Someday down the road, we might. But I use a crate drop cross, and I love our pork. Our pork is kind of one of our unsung heroes on our menu for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But brisket by far, and our burn-ins, like those are the two. I am just blown away with how much demand there is for that, and how much people love brisket out here.
It's coming on strong. Coming on strong for sure. Well, we're going to wrap up our conversation here, kind of come down to the end of it here with some low and slow showdown quick hitters. We're going to try to keep them quick, but then maybe a little explanation along the way. So right off the top, you guys, gas, pellets, charcoal, or wood?
I'm a wood guy, although I've used all of them. Wood to me is that true flavor essence, and can't knock the others, because I've cooked, I go out to families and I'll cook on their pellets, I'll cook on their charcoal, but wood's where it's at for me, and especially the oak out here. We got some amazing wood.
Yeah. So you said oak. Is oak your favorite wood to use?
So I use a combination. I use red and white oak. And especially being like that San Diego kind of California influence, red oak is your number one wood for Santa Maria. So I love red oak. That it's got a peppery, spicy, almost kind of a musky kind of flavor to it that's unusual, and just puts it in its own spectrum. So like the white oak and red oak blend to me. We do use pecan, cherry, and a little bit of hickory in there as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all have their own flavor profiles for sure. So, the best state in these United States for barbecue?
Carolina.
Bradley with Carolina.
I love them all. Having done barbecue kind of across the country, I of course right now the Carolinas is my place. So this is my home, and I got to say we do some amazing barbecue out here. I still love Texas. And I still have some good Santa Maria style.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that, as long as Carolina's in the mix and at the top of the mix, right? So, best North Carolina style, Eastern or Western?
I love the Eastern for its whole hog, and that's something that I aspire to do myself. And
Yeah.
we'll be doing it down the road. But I got to say, for sauce wise, I'm kind of a Western Piedmont style sauce. I like that tomato base in it.
Yeah. Okay. So do you want pork, beef, or chicken?
Can I have them all?
You can, but which do you want the biggest pile of?
Give me some beef, give me some tri-tip, give me some brisket.
Yeah, tri-tip. I look forward to seeing more of that. You mentioned that, and it's definitely becoming more popular. It's cool that you're going to bring that to this area. Definitely something we want to check out there at Bohemian Cattle Company. So sauce, better with or without?
I'm a sauce on the side guy. Even our pork, we don't sauce any of our pork. I do a pulled pork versus a chopped, and all my sauces are on the side. That is a definite kind of Texas influence for me. I want you to taste the meat first, and then add in the sauce to your liking, not to mine.
Absolutely. That's the way it should be. I'll agree with that for sure. So when you have the sauce, do you want it sweet or spicy?
I'm a spicy guy, but I know a lot of my coworkers and fellow ownership here that they don't have the spicy palate that I do. So we got some good sweet stuff. We got some good spicy, but me, it's always going to be spicy. I love the spice. I love the heat.
So when we come down there, we want to ask for the spicy stash on the side, right?
Absolutely.
So here it is. Barbecue. Is it a verb or is it a noun?
It's a noun. For me, barbecue is something that I went to, something that I do. I don't think it describes kind of just. It's not as simple as that. To me, it's being out there with your buds, staying up late nights, getting that brisket done, cooking that whole hog. It's all those things.
It's all those things. And that, my friends, is the lowdown from Colby and Brownlee and the Bohemian Cattle Company on the Low and Slow Barbecue Show. Guys, thanks so much for joining the podcast.
Absolutely.
Hey, thank you for having us. It was a blast. We'll come back anytime.
Yeah, thank you. And let's do it from your location next time.
Let's do it.
Fantastic.
Sounds good.
You've been listening to the Low and Slow Barbecue Show on the Mesh.tv network of podcasts. Be sure to visit us online at lowslowbbqshow.com. You'll find Colby Brownlee's recipe and more details about Bohemian Cattle Company. While you're at lowslowbbqshow.com, look for other podcasts, including our interviews with the Carolina's Best Pitmasters, award-winning food journalist Hannah Raskin, and even a few backyard barbecue buddies. If you like what you hear on the Low and Slow Barbecue Show, please follow our show in your favorite podcast stream, give it a 5-star rating, and share it with your friends. Special thanks to my guests Colby Brownlee and Brownlee Bonning from Bohemian Cattle Company. Thanks as well to our producer Andrew Moose and the whole team at the Mesh.tv network of podcasts. Most especially, thank you for listening to the Low and Slow Barbecue Show. Remember, for the best barbecue and the best barbecue podcast, make it low and slow.
You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.